Hello everybody, good morning. My name is Lewis, I'm 25 and I'm currently exploring a call to pioneer ministry in the Methodist Church. Today I am here to share a story with you around the themes of identity and mission that have been identified in the Gospel of Mark in chapter 1 verse 1 to chapter 3 verse 35. And it's these themes and this gospel that is being looked at as part of Bible Month this year. So my story begins quite some time ago now, whilst I was still studying for my undergrad in applied theology and performing arts at Bible College. And during my undergrad, I had been given this glimpse into the world of pioneer ministry and fresh expressions that had really sparked something in me, and I knew that this was an area of ministry that I had to explore further, and I didn't really know where that exploration would lead at that point, and I didn't know that exploration would take quite some time, but it did. And eventually that exploration led me to looking at a course at Cliff College, at a master's in mission with a specialism in pioneer ministry. And that sort of came to the forefront around this time last year. Now, I was quite anxious about re-entering into formal education for quite a number of reasons. But one of the main ones that was in the back of my head was that I might possibly have some sort of learning difficulty or difference that hadn't been picked up in my schooling so far. And I had this suspicion during my undergrad as well. And you might think, well, why didn't you, ask someone about it or tell someone about it? And I think I'd gotten into the unfortunate habit of comparing myself with others and thinking, well, I'm not struggling quite as bad as that person or this person, so maybe that's not me. But now that I was looking at exploring a master's or doing a master's, and that it would be studying to such a high level, I knew that I couldn't ignore this niggling in the back of my head, and I had to get a proper learning needs assessment. So I went for this assessment, and it turned out that I was right and that I did have dyslexia. But still, I felt this yearning to know more about pioneer ministry, and I really felt a calling to this course, this master's at Cliff College. So I decided to carry on pursuing it despite certain anxieties. And when looking at the course more closely, I was looking to study part-time because I was working as well. And I discovered that Cliff College offered a part-time course over 2 years and a part-time course over 3 years. So having weighed these two up, I instantly thought 3 years is going to be much easier for me, especially with a new diagnosis of dyslexia. So I applied for a position at Cliff College, part-time for 3 years. And thankfully, I was offered a place. And then, after my place was confirmed, I applied for student finance, only to find out that unfortunately student finance would only cover the course if I completed it in 2 years. And I had no other way of financing the course, and my anxieties had started building at this point, and it got to the point where I just said, sorry, God, I don't think I can do this. It's too much. It'll be too hard. And I essentially said no. And I contacted my friends who I'd made during my undergrad course, who had sort of been on this journey with me up until this point. And I said to them, I can't do this. This is impossible. The burden of the dyslexia is going to be too much, and I'm not going to be able to do this course. And it was amazing because even though we were separated because we were in different places in the country, and obviously the pandemic was still really bad at that point, but I got so many messages of encouragement, and it was amazing how my friends, despite the fact that I'd identified all the negative things, all the things that were setbacks, all the things that would disadvantage me on this course, my friends, they identified all the good things, all the positive things, all the things that would spur me on and be an advantage to me. And it was really their encouragement, their faith in me, that made me rethink again and decide, actually, no, I can do this. And you'll be happy to know that I have formally started my course now. I have finished the first module last month. Currently doing my first essay, so any prayers you can pass my way would be much appreciated. And now you're probably wondering, how does this story fit into the themes that we've identified, the themes of identity and mission in this first bit of Mark? Well, when I was reading this passage in Mark, the story that stood out to me the most was the story of the paralysed man. And I just want to read this little bit that stood out to me because it had never really stood out to me in such a bold way before. So just to remind you that Jesus had visited this house and it was full, it was packed to the brim. No one could get in, probably no one could get out either. And these friends came along with their friend who was paralysed, and they carried him, but they couldn't get in, so they lowered him down through the roof. And the passage says, and when Jesus saw their faith. Now, I don't want to theologize too much, but their faith, that's the friends' faith. These friends had such faith in what Jesus could do for their friend that they were willing to rip through the roof of a house and lower their friend down just so he could see Jesus. So this shows that sometimes it is the faith of our friends, of the community we've built around us, that can identify things in us that we might be blind to. It's those friends who keep us on that journey with Jesus and heading towards the things that God has called us to. So now I have 3 questions for us to ponder. Firstly, how do you interact with Jesus as friend? How do you interact with Jesus as friend? Secondly, how has friendship informed and influenced your ministry during the pandemic? How has friendship informed and influenced your ministry during the pandemic? And lastly, who has been a faithful friend to you? And how do you foster a healthy friendship with them? Who has been a faithful friend to you? And how do you foster a healthy friendship with them? Thank you for listening.